All right, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Go With The Flow. I'm your host, Folarin Okulaja. Before we start, the usual things, like, subscribe. There's TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. That's my tagline. If you send it to one person, have them send it to another. And then we kind of go from there. Special guest in the building. I say all my guests are special. Anyone who takes the time to come on the show is a special guest to me, and I always appreciate them taking the time. But we have Femi on the show. Welcome to the show, sir.
How's it going? Just to add, I think I'm ahead of the Governor Murphy, right?
Honestly, yeah. People always, it's funny, I literally got that question yesterday of either who my favorite guest is or who my biggest guest is. And I'm always like, that's subjective. To some people, it's Governor Murphy. To somebody, it could be you. And so, yes, I'll put you up there.
I appreciate it.
And so I think people are always curious about how I find my guests. And so this is even one episode where we literally just met through Instagram.
Yeah. I think I always forget whether it's Sheik or Sheikh.
Shaq.
Yeah, Shaq. We had connected before, just I think through a network, and then I saw that I saw it through Instagram. Saw you guys were cool, and of course, being Nigerian, I'm a Nigerian, so always gotta kind of see what you were up to, and I've loved so far all the interviews, and just professionally and personally what you're striving for and what you're building. So
No, I appreciate that. And I think that's honestly one of the beauties of social media. As much there is all this ongoing conversation, actually very topical, about the power of social media and maybe even the negative influences. You had the CEOs of 5 major social media companies testifying on Capitol Hill this week about the negative effects of social media. There is the better aspect of it where it's able to bring people together like this, where in, 1980, we could not have had this interaction and we couldn't have met through something like social media.
Yeah, I mean, you're totally right. I mean, I watched like a few clips of that, and I saw Mark Zuckerberg when he apologized to the families, and I think the negative effects of social media, we talk about it a lot, but to your point, it's been a lot of positives as well. And it's been a bridge. It's been able to connect people. I think of ways that, I connect with family members, or, I actually have a funny story.
Let's hear it. I love it. We're on a podcast. Let's hear
it. So when I was in Nigeria, I had like a primary school friends. And I think 2 years ago now, one of them found me on like Instagram, and she reached out to me. And that was so beautiful because I never knew I would see these people again. Like, I've forgotten some of them, but she sent me pictures of us, as kids. You always take those pictures with your classmates. And I was like, wow, this is throwback. This is like it threw me in a way that I've never felt that sense of like, wow, they found me.
Yeah, so. You know what is so cool? One, I'll ask you about your background literally in 2 seconds, but it's so funny because I've had the exact same experience. And when you give your background, we'll see how similar ours are, but I moved from Nigeria when I was 9 years old. 9 years old, that's too early to actually, I think, be able to keep in touch with people in a real way.
Right.
Social media was kind of a thing. I think Facebook might have just started.
Right.
But basically when I moved from Nigeria, I lost touch with 99.9% of people.
Right.
And these were people that, again, I never thought I would see again. But there are some where either I found them through Instagram or they found me. But I also had one where this girl found me and she sent me a picture from like primary 1 or 2 in our school uniform. And I'm like, the throwbacks, the memories from the people that, again, you never thought you would hear from. And then there was even this more random connection where there was this girl who I went to school with. She was Nigerian, but she also grew up partially in London. I remember it like it was yesterday. It was freshman year on the bus to our club soccer formals. And I think she put me on her, she put me on her story, or I was in the background of her story. And this girl slid up and was like, oh, is that Folarin Okulaja? And she was like, yeah, how do you know each other? And she was like, oh, we were we went to Corona Via, which is a primary school in Nigeria. We went to primary school when we were like 5 through 8 years old, lost contact, but now she's neighbors with the girl that I went to college with. And now
Wow.
one of those things where it's like small world. It's
Exactly.
cool to have those full circle moments. And yeah, it's just cool. But I guess, yeah, this is a great place for you to, I guess, give your background, tell the people about yourself.
Yeah. So, I mean, similar to you, I came here in 2009. I was 9 years old also. Um, my mom actually won a visa lottery, which was like around that time. You know, my dad had been playing for quite a while, but he would never win. And then it's so funny how like the one time my mom played the visa lottery, she won. And so yeah, we all got to come here. Actually, there's another funny story. It's like a parallel universe or a multiverse. So we were originally supposed to come to Houston,
Okay.
and we had a family, you know, who was going to host us and kind of show us around. And I think last minute there was some sort of issue, so then we had to, you know, find somewhere else to land essentially. So we had family members or family friends rather in New York. And that's how I landed in New York.
Okay.
So parallel universe or some other multiverse, I could have been grown up in Houston, which there's like a million Nigerians there.
Yeah, I was about to say every Nigerian's in Houston.
Yeah. But yeah, that would have been a crazy. I think about that. Like my life would have been totally different.
Yes, I love this thread and where this is going. It is so funny how the smallest decisions can divert the course of your life
Right.
in the most insane ways. The most not easy, the one that always comes to mind, and honestly, it's a simple one, and it's a decision that everyone makes, but it's where you go to college.
Right.
I think about it all the time. Where for me, my dream school was Duke University. When we moved from Nigeria to North Carolina because we had family there. My mom's sister was there, and so that's why we moved there. And so Duke was the first school I knew in the country. It was always my dream school. That's where I always wanted to go. I did get in, but they gave me no financial aid. I grew up right around the corner from Princeton, or at least when I moved to Jersey. They have one of the best financial aid packages in the country, so ended up going there. And that, even just that one decision, I'm like, that already is going to change the course of your life
Right.
in whatever direction, better or worse. And then just any other school you go to will change that much more. The little interactions you have. Even another crazy story, my roommate right now is a guy I met in Target.
Oh wow!
I literally met him at Target. But more context though.
Yeah, you have to give more context.
This was because we interned at the same company, and so it was intern summer, and it was literally second to last day of the internship. People buy thank you cards for their teams, and so I was in Target buying thank you cards in the thank you card aisle. I look up, I see another young black guy dressed just like I am, and I was like, thank you cards? He was like, yeah. Now he's like one of my best friends to this day.
I love that with guys. How we could just
we're easy.
You can meet at Target and then just be like, yeah, thank you card, and then
it's simple. The rest is history. And we literally spoke about that last week, where if he was in that Target, if either of us were there 5 minutes earlier,
right?
I don't know, Grant Robinson. And just the way both our New York experiences have changed so much due to that timing. God's plan. That's
life is so interesting. Like, yeah, I think about moments like that in which, you know, like you said, one interaction can have such adverse effect on your entire life and your perspective as well.
Yeah. Because it works better for worse. You think of the so many like wrong place, wrong time scenario where some people's exact life are altered for worse because they just happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Life is crazy. It's crazy. But okay, so you said family moved to New York, and then so where?
Yeah, so we landed first in Long Island, like Elmont, that area.
Okay.
And I kind of went to elementary school there. I was like 4th or 5th grade, and then we then moved to, and there was nothing really like that I can remember. I remember the school I went to and some of the people there. I actually keep up with, well, I say keep up, but vaguely I see on Instagram.
Which honestly, that's good. That's good enough.
Yeah, two people from there, but then we moved to Far Rockaway.
Okay. Only reason I know that name is because it's the last stop on one of the subway lines.
It's honestly. traveling from Far Rockaway to anywhere is such a hassle.
Tough.
It's tough, bro. Like I would think about it. If I wanted to come into the city, you know, I would have to plan like 2 hours, like a 2 hour window
Damn.
from it. And I lived on the last stop too. So I lived on Mott Avenue. All right. So that was last stop of the A train to get into the city. And yeah, it was I remember it was like, you know, if you were texting a girl, you know, from a different borough and you told her like, you know, I live in Far Rockaway. Like, nah.
Ends the conversation.
I'm not making that trip.
Hey, that's still real to this day. Are you single or in a relationship?
So I'm in a relationship.
Okay, good for you. That's what's
Yeah.
up. But as a single guy,
And let me look at the camera. I'm in a relationship.
he's in a relationship. You hear that? Okay.
Baby, I love you.
But even for me, as a single guy who, whether it be on Hinge or I'm meeting girls out, sometimes I see a certain burn and I'm like, I don't want it.
Yeah.
Even low-key jokingly, I'm like, if she's above, because I live in Fide,
Mhm.
if they're above like Lower East Side, East Village, I'm good. That's a distance.
Yeah,
And that's
there's-
just me being facetious. Obviously, it's not that far, but the sentiment still kind of stands. Some distances are way too far.
Yeah, that's Staten Island is one of those too.
Oh God, yeah, God, no.
Yeah,
Oh my
I
God,
would
yeah,
do
no.
it.
yeah.
It's like-
I mean, my radius is already like 1.5, 2. No,
Right.
it's like 3 miles maybe.
Right.
But then sometimes some of the other bros will sneak, and I'm like, nah. This is
Yeah, like for me, I can't do. Even though I'm from Queens, I love Queens, but where I live right now, Brooklyn, getting to Queens because there's no direct line, like you got to go through Manhattan.
which makes no sense.
Yeah, there should.
They're right. Again, that makes no sense.
Yeah, I mean there is the G line, but it's like
There's a G line?
Yeah, but it's like all the way.
What color is it?
It's like it's green, I believe, light green.
There's a.
It's lighter than the 4 or 5, 6, but that's the only one, and it doesn't even really connect you. But yeah, I mean, going back, you know, I grew up in Far Rockaway. I spent a lot of like my childhood, went to middle school there. You know, that was a really, I want to say like that set the tone for my New York experience. Just the different characters and different types of people, and you know, Far Rockaway. I'm not sure if you know the reputation that Far Rockaway has.
I do not. Please enlighten.
But it's not. It's let's just say it wasn't always well. I don't know what it is now, but I know growing up, it wasn't the best place to grow up. There's a lot of with gang issues or just we were crazy. We were crazy back then. I'm thinking about some of the stuff that we were doing. But yeah, then went to high school in Jamaica. Actually, went to Thomas Edison High School, which is also another another crazy place. I think when I was there in 9th grade, we still had some super seniors.
Okay.
So-
Yeah. I love that every school had super seniors. Yeah.
Yeah.
People who are just around a little bit too long. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was, I remember at that time, it was like kids would come out of school, and then it's just like there's a line and people would just get robbed coming out of school. And this was every day. Every day.
Would it maybe like change the path that it takes you to get home? Maybe like have less on. Like I'm thinking of my mind goes to how do we prevent something that happens every day from happening again?
I think it was literally. So there was a park right next to the school, and it's people walking. There's 2 ways you can. There's multiple ways, but I know the most way people went was through the park and then down the hill, or if you went through the other side, because Jamaica High School was also right next to us.
Okay.
And I think Hillcrest was not too far if you walk down the hill. But people would get robbed coming out of school, and it was like almost a daily occurrence, and it was based on those bad actors and their friends. But I think the school went through a tremendous transformation over the years. I think by the time I was like a junior, I think the
People weren't getting robbed every day.
no, people weren't getting robbed anymore. And the type of students who came in were like freshmen and sophomores were more so like really good kids, and so it made a better culture. I mean, I was okay. I never got robbed. But that's just because, like, when you grow up in Far Rockaway, you know how to handle those situations, and you know how to, like, how to move about. And so, and I always knew people who, like, we weren't friends, but they knew me.
Mhm.
So, like, hey, maybe we don't rob him.
Yeah, he's
like,
good. He's good.
he's
Yeah,
good.
he's good over. Yeah.
He's good. But yeah, and then from there, I stayed local for college. Actually, funny enough, I always thought of myself as like I remember I did an internship at Mount Sinai
Okay.
when I was a junior.
Were you pre-med? Was there ever any pre-med pressure on you?
No, nah. I think my parents were, and I know that's like the Nigerian. You're either a doctor, engineer, or lawyer, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
No, my parents never put that. My mom always said, like, even when I was a kid, we would have like inter-house sports and things like that, right? And we did something called Career Day. This was back in Nigeria, and one of the I had a poster, and it was like, oh, I'm gonna be an accountant. And I have that picture.
Yeah.
And I look back at it today, I'm like, what the fuck would I want to be an accountant?
No disrespect to the accountants, but yeah, who's out here waking up dreaming to be an accountant?
Right. But yeah, so the internship at Mount Sinai, that was more so like business, because I studied like Thomas Edison was a technical high school.
Mm-hmm.
So like things I was doing was computer engineering, computer science. And so, part of that internship from Mount Sinai was like the information technology aspect of the business. And so the director, who was, our manager, I remember I was such a crazy kid at that time. I came up with an idea that I would work through with my dad. It was like a concept for funny enough, because I'm not even sure how applicable that would be today, but it was a cigarette vending machine.
Okay.
And it was supposed to be formed in a way in which would help stop kids from addiction. And it was supposed to incorporate vaping and all of that. I don't remember too much what the concept was. Very abstract.
Okay, I was like, let him land. Okay.
Yeah. It was very abstract, and we were like, so I pitched it to him, and we put together like a plan and everything. I pitched it to him, and I remember, and I walked in there, and I was like, oh, I need you to sign an NDA. And he read it, and he was like, I can't sign this. He was like, I can't. But that was the first thing, that taught me. That was like, you got to read everything. And you can't sign. You can't just put your signature out there. That taught me that. And I was like a junior in high school going up to him. And we have conversation, and I told him, I was like, yeah, by the time I'm 18, I'm going to be a millionaire, And he sat me down. He was like, statistically, there's like, how many, like, of all the people in the world, there's probably like 0.1% of 18-year-olds, and probably even less than that, are millionaires.
Yeah, and they're probably all the ones who got drafted in the first or second round of the NBA. That's probably
exactly right. But yeah, that was such a good experience for me. And then having that coming back, I do have to shout out my computer science teacher though, because he changed my life.
Shout him out.
Mr. Bell. We're going to build that school for you, by the way. But he was the first male Black teacher that I had that wasn't like a music teacher or something like that, like computer science.
What year was this?
So I had him sophomore year.
Okay.
And then, so we call it shop, but that was like the technical class. I had him sophomore year, and then I had him again senior year.
Okay.
But he changed my life, really, because when I came in there, I came with the Far Rock mentality, but I remember the first day of school, or not first day of school, the first day of class that we had him, he had this like list of things on his board. And I remember it said, one of them was, my class this is not a democracy. This is a dictatorship.
I like that.
Yeah. And he was one where like you couldn't be late to his class. You had to always be there on time. And so I never had that type of pressure, or like not even pressure, I think standard.
Yeah, discipline that you.
Discipline, that's a good word. Really put on me until that point, especially coming from someone who looked like me
Mhm.
and who was from my background.
Yeah.
Because I think he grew up in, I could be wrong, I think he grew up in Brooklyn. But yeah, it was life changing for me.
Which honestly, that representation matters so much, and
Yeah.
seeing people who look like you do certain things, I can't state enough how how much that plays a role. For me, I remember there was this guy who, and you know, it's again, small world.
Right.
Okay, so when I moved to this town called West Windsor, there was this guy who was in the high school. He was like on the football team, black guy, popular guy. He was like a peer leader.
Mhm.
He was going to play football at Harvard, and he was this guy who I'd never met before. I'd never met him,
Right.
but just seeing how he operated and seeing someone who looked like me be able to go to an Ivy League, do X, Y, and Z. He was always one of my role models just from seeing what he was doing and how he was operating. And you know what's so crazy is he works in finance, I work in finance. I'm hosting this dinner through work on Wednesday, and because of where he works, I'm able to invite him, and so I'm going to meet him for the first time at that dinner.
Oh wow.
And I'm going to be like, you obviously don't know this,
Right.
but you're someone who I've looked up to for 8-9 years at this
Wow.
point, just because I've seen how you operated.
Yeah.
And obviously, yes, there were the white kids going to Harvard and the Asian kids, but like it makes such a bigger difference when it's someone who looks like you doing certain things. So yeah, that power of representation is very important.
Yeah, I agree. It also goes back to kind of what you said, right? Of just how little things can have such like a material effect on your life. Because that was like having him there at that moment.
Yeah,
changed the trajectory and the course of my life, right? And so, so shout out to Mr. Bell.
Shout out Mr. Bell. And then for college, where did you remind me where you went?
So I went to Berkeley College. It's a private college here in New York City.
Okay.
Honestly, like I remember doing college applications. I was working, I think at the time, I was working at the school, and I honestly didn't really want to go to college. I didn't really think of it. I was like, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I'm going to but it was one thing, I'm Nigerian. And so for us, Nigeriano de carry last, exactly. Right? We always successful. And I kind of had this relationship with my parents where they were like, whatever you do, just do your best. Like whatever it is, we support you. Growing up, I wanted to be a soccer player.
Mm-hmm. Didn't we all? Yeah, didn't we all?
But there came a point when I started college. It was like, so I got into my college team, and there was a shift because I went from like, why do I want to be a soccer player when I can be, the owner of the team?
There you go.
Because I think about it. If someone pays you $1 million, you literally have to make them hundreds of $1 million for them to justify that amount. Yeah. So for me, it was like that shift and that's something that's always been in the back of my mind. That like kind of, I hate the word entrepreneur, but entrepreneurial mindset.
Why do you hate the word entrepreneur?
I feel like it's just overused.
Okay, fair.
Yeah, everyone was honestly, everyone was, and and maybe I'm giving it too much negativity. But yeah, but to pivot back, during high school, actually, that's how I started my journey into fashion.
Okay, which good segue. That was going to be the next topic of conversation. Okay, let's get into it.
Yeah. So I met two of my friends, who one of them is still, one of my best friends today.
Shout out.
Yeah, Jamar, and the other, we're close. Fumi, I just wish you wouldn't ghost us. But she's on her grind. She wants to be a doctor.
Okay, there you go.
So Fumi's on her grind. I respect and I really love Fumi. But yeah, so Jamar, Fumi, and I, we met on the bus because we all lived in Far Rockaway, and I remember one day, literally, I tell you this. I woke up, and I think this was like sophomore year, one summer, like one day during the summer, and I was like, why do people wear brands? That was just a thought that stayed with me for a day. I was like, why do people wear brands? Like, what's so attractive about Adidas, Nike, Louis Vuitton or X brand, right? And I was like, I want to create something. I just want to create something. So I pitched it to them, and we kind of got together, put some startup cash together, and we started like printing T-shirts, and we rode bikes around the neighborhood, and we would try to sell them to people. And then I started bringing them to school, and then at that time, I started like doing, I'll call modeling, but like there was an agency in the city that I wanted to sign for, and there was like I started doing photo shoots, doing all these things. So I really got into my creative bag, and yeah, and we started from there, and it was just the three of us. I think that summer we had made like, I think anywhere between $2,000 to $5,000.
Damn, that's impressive. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like,
how much were you selling T-shirts for?
It was like, I think the first T-shirts we made, well, I always push for a higher price point.
Okay.
But
which we'll get into luxury brands, price points. We'll get into that conversation.
Yeah, but I think we went, I think it was like $30 or $40 for a T-shirt. And I would tell them, I was like, listen, you're not just paying for the shirt, right? Because anyone can make a shirt, but you're paying for our time, our talent, you're paying for our creativity.
Yeah.
And also like these are three kids who are, call it 16, 17, and we're actively, trying to, we're in the field trying stuff, right? And so at that time, to have people within the community who really supported us, I think that was huge. And people really were like, oh, continue to do what you're doing. And from there, I remember my cousins had visited so I have family in the UK as well, as most Nigerians do. And my cousins has visited us. And one day we were walking down Soho and we turn around and some girl asks us a question, and she wants to interview my friend Jamar. I think he's really tall, but she was doing a shoot for like the NBA, I want to say. And then we just turned to her and I'm like, hey, we're starting a brand, you should follow us or something like that. And then she followed me, I followed her back too. And then I kind of stalked her on Instagram for like a couple of days because she was at the time she was a designer and she was an NFL menswear stylist. And her name is Desiree.
Shout out
Desiree. So I stalked, and she posted that she needed an intern. So I was like, hey, I'll be an intern. And I remember at the time she lived in Astoria. If anyone knows a journey from Astoria to Jamaica, and then to go from Jamaica to Astoria and then to Far Rockaway.
It's far. It takes time.
and while doing this, I was also playing for like a club team here in the city. And we would practice in the Upper West Side. Well, we would practice in Randall's Island. But we would meet in the Upper West Side. So to do all of that, honestly, to this day, I don't know how I did it. But I interned for her. And she taught me about cut and sew, and I really saw her build her brand. And I think she was just featured on a Netflix show.
Are you still in touch with her?
Yeah. The one from Gigi. And they actually, so her and her partner, they actually moved down to Atlanta and opened their first flagship store.
Wow.
So, and the brand is Todd Patrick, by the way. Really awesome brand. And, Desiree is someone who, like, to this, I will always be grateful for Desiree because she
gave you probably so much experience and taught you so much.
Yeah. I mean, for her to look at me and go, yeah, I'll give this kid a shot.
And again, you met on the streets of New York.
Right, and exactly.
Common theme, which it's such, again, it keeps coming up over and over, but it's so true. The amount of times where all it takes is one little interaction to get you the job, to meet your husband or wife, to get you whatever. Like, that's just the way life works.
Right.
Which is why I'm such a, like, you got to put yourself out there. You got to be able to be willing to meet different people and not just shelter yourself off from everyone. But okay, so a lot of questions about this. One, love the OG store. I feel like every entrepreneur has that. I was, shoveling snow for $5, whatever, or I was mowing lawns in the neighborhood and then blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
You have your store. So when you have your store. Selling the t-shirts in the neighborhood, making all that money, and then having, again, enough of an entrepreneurial drive, as much as you hate the word, to actually go about and do it, and then actually doing something significant with it. So I guess even taking one step back,
Mhm.
speaking of Instagram stalking, I remember when whoever followed each other first, I saw your Instagram and then I saw the brand. And so for everyone listening, you do have, fast forward to today, you do have your own clothing brand.
Right.
And I think that was one of the first things that I saw that I was like, okay, this is one, dope, first of all. I'm someone who and we'll talk more about fashion just more broadly. I'm just interested in, I'm not going to say I'm ever going to get into it, but it's
Mm.
something that intrigues me. And so it's seeing another young person having their own luxury fashion brand. That was something that I automatically was like, this is awesome. I need to be able, I want to connect with them just to learn a little bit more. So first, props to you for that.
Yeah.
And then I
appreciate it.
guess talk to me more about the journey of okay, so you mentioned selling t-shirts in the neighborhood, you do this internship. Talk me through the process of actually launching the brand and what the early process was like for you.
Yeah. So with the brand, it was really
And
a
I guess tell people about the brand more generally first.
yeah. So Femi Aina New York is really I call it more of a contemporary. People use different terms, but I say contemporary luxury fashion brand. And really, we even took it a step further. And for me, technology is such a huge part of like what I think that's going to be intertwined and the next stage. And we already see it in some aspects of fashion. So it's really part of that contemporary tech-enabled luxury brand wheelhouse, if that's a way to kind of pin it down to the
Okay.
vertical. But for me, it was also about one, telling because I put my name on it, right? It's Femi Aina, and for those who don't know, Aina means that you were born with an umbilical cord around your neck. And so it's one that's like for me. And funny enough, Desiree was actually the one who told me. She was like, "You should use your name."
Which one, sorry to just interject really quickly. I feel like actually no, there's a lot of brands that are very successful where the people use their brands.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, I just love that idea of like, okay, I'm sticking my name on it. I'm not trying to come up with anything else. So honestly, I do think that should be the default. Some people will literally make up names just to have it be the name of their brand. So I do like that aspect of it. And I love that your name is on the brand.
Yeah. And it's kind of this, within the name itself, it also tells, what the brand is about in some aspect, because if you think Femi Aina and New York, right? It's two worlds that are coming together, right? Because the Femi Aina is a Nigerian part of me, but I'm still a New Yorker. Like I had a lot of my formidable years here, and so it's a huge part of who I am. And New York fashion has influenced me. I remember I was one of those kids on the Supreme line, trying to get it in like 2013, right? 2014. I kind of followed the whole, when you had ASAP, their crew, ASAP Mob, Lucas Sabat, all these guys who kind of came through the New York fashion scene. I was the kid who was like 12 or 13 looking behind, like, oh, this is cool. This is what they're doing, right? But then you've also got the Femi Aina part, which is what I wanted to kind of emphasize, was the storytelling of and telling Nigerian stories and African stories as a whole. But really, when I looked back into my culture, I thought about this from two aspects: culture and legacy. Culture in terms of, we have such a rich culture, and when it comes to fashion, sustainability is kind of built into the fabric of African or Nigerian fashion. Like, we are not fast fashion by like our core identity. If you think about the way in which we create pieces and clothes, if you think about from, the, I hate how I use the word hate, but like the way like kente cloth from the, again, pardon me, it's either Ghanaians or Ghanaians. Please don't kill me. But obviously that's from their culture and it tells a story. But you think of like from Yoruba culture, right? Adire, the dye. You think about the Iro and Buba. You think about all these other aspects of what our fashion is, and we've never really been a fast fashion community historically. And so For me, that's kind of like integrated with the fabric of the story that I want to tell. And that's what Femi Aina New York is about, that
Okay.
storytelling, that culture. And then you have that New York tech-enabled aspect as well coming together to create that.
Love that.
Yeah.
And so I guess when it comes to putting together different collections, what is that thought process like for you?
Oh, man. That's such a great question. I think for me, I start with a story.
Okay.
I start with what story do I want to tell? And then everything else gets created around that. And by everything, I mean from the fabric to, the marketing, from how we put it out, from who we're interacting with. And then, we don't, like different brands have different ways of marketing their product, right? And for me, what's really the way I want it to be is one that kind of grows within the community. And so we try to partner with what I call not influencers, but influential people within the community.
I like that.
And yeah, and with by the community, I don't just mean like the Nigerian or African community, but I also mean those who who are allies, or who kind of understand, who understand and want to kind of continue to tell their stories as well. Those who historically their stories haven't been told to the world. And so that's really the thought process behind how I put together a collection. It's kind of, I have like different sporadic ideas, and then I've brought on different people to my team, and I've worked with.
That was going to be my next question.
Yeah.
How big is the team, or is it a one-man operation?
So right now, for legal reasons, a one-man operation. But I do always bounce ideas off of people. And, I think when I first started, I remember, so this was while I was in college, actually. I tried to bring, so although the brand itself has gone through so many iterations, we started out when I was in high school, when it was me, Jamar, and Fumi, right? My two friends. It started out as the recycling bin.
Okay.
And that was really about like discovery, like what can we do here, right? And then, it went through several iterations. And I remember in college, I had brought like 5 people together. And there was one guy, he was from Japan, and, he was kind of doing his thing in like handbags, but he was really creative. Like he could illustrate. He was a really good technical drawer. And he was someone that like, because I'm the ideas guy. Like I have a vision of the product and what I want to bring, but like I'm not going to sit here and illustrate it, right?
Yeah.
So for me, it was like being able to talk to him, and he would get exactly my vision, and he would bring it to life, right?
I love
And
that.
so,
That's the exact same way the my podcast art came about.
oh wow,
I literally had a vision for it, took a picture, and there was this very talented girl who went to Princeton who literally first iteration, I was like, you got exactly what I wanted.
Yeah.
So you need the people who are just that creative to just put it together.
Yeah, and honestly, that's one of the biggest things. I think I know I'm not the to some respect, I know my strengths and weaknesses, but it's all about like surrounding yourself with people who are
Complimentary.
Or even better.
Yeah.
Like if you're the smartest guy in the room, then you need to get a different room.
Yeah.
Right.
Agreed.
Yeah. So yeah, it was really a moment of discovery and then building from there.
Which of your collections has been your favorite, or the one you're most proud of so far? And
Let's say
people could go to the website and look it up. It's FEMIAINE NewYork.com. So go check it out.
Yeah. AINA.
Oh, did I fuck that up?
Yeah. FEMIAINA NewYork.com. But
unless I'm bugging, the web's AIN. Oh, A, yeah. I was like, these are my. I was like, I don't know. I was about to try to doubt you, but I was like, can I not read AIN?
I remember my last name.
I was about to gaslight you and not thinking you knew your own last name. Yeah.
Yeah. Favorite collection. It's tough. I honestly, I'm not going to answer that question.
Okay.
just
You're
because.
like a parent who's gonna say you love all your kids equally.
No, not that. But I'm always like, I'm one of those people who's super critical of everything, and so every collection, although some people are like, "Oh, this is really great," for me, I'm like, "No, this isn't my best work."
I love the which again, I feel like that is a similar thread in any person who has like big aspirations or who's just very motivated. You're never satisfied.
Right.
And I'm the exact same way. Nothing I do is ever good enough.
Right.
I'm gonna wrap up this. We're gonna wrap up this episode. I'm gonna be like, this is a great episode, but I'm like, okay, I could have done this, that, and the others.
Right.
Well, yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So I guess more to your own fashion inspirations. Who are some of your favorite designers, and whose work do you look to for inspiration?
So, I think at a time I had a couple of people in mind. I think I went through that. I don't know. There was a time I went to a Rick Owens phase. Like, not the. I know how when people think of Rick Owens, they like they have a certain vision in mind. But in terms of like how I took pieces of his. In terms of the abstract nature of his design element, and some of his kind of his story arc as well. But now, actually, I don't have a favorite, like a designer who I look up to. I think for a long time, I really loved the like. A lot of people say they see, or a lot of people in my life, I don't want to say they see a lot of similarities, maybe characteristically. I don't know if that's good or bad, between me and, Kanye West.
I don't know why he was a name. I was about to ask you about, but okay.
I mean, listen, he was one of the creatively, he's a big inspiration for me, and he's had an influence on. I think as a kid growing up here, and who loves hip hop and who's into fashion, seeing someone who can
wear some Yeezys.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So I think that element I can throw Ye in there. But now I think I'm just in a period of discovery where, I'm kind of building my own thing.
I like that.
And it's a little bit different. I think I can borrow elements from a few designers, and elements. I mean like creatively in terms of their story arc. Just how or the lessons behind their creative process of like. So Virgil, is one of those as well. If thinking about, I think one of the greatest things that Virgil said was, you can create an item, right, or a product, or you can create a space in which the product lies or stays in, right? And how you create that also adds value to the product as well. It's one of his videos that he has out there, and to have Off-White for what it became, and the mainstream and all that stuff. Virgil, to go from being an architecture to interning at Louis Vuitton and working his way to what he created, rest in peace, Virgil, and to be from Nigeria. I mean, not Nigeria, from Ghana, right? The Ghanaians are gonna. I apologize. To be from Ghana, right, and so to be from West Africa, right, and to, there was a lot of inspiration there. And so I would kind of throw them out there.
And so honestly, few things you said. First on Ye, when it comes to the creativity, I think he is just one of the most creative people musically when it comes to clothes. I got his the Ye Gap puffer, the blue one.
Oh, I have that too, actually.
That jacket's amazing. I got it a few months back, and I wore it for the first time last week, and I need the red one now. That shit is amazing. These Yeezys are amazing. The vision has always been there, and I think what he executes, like, and I'm not even like a fashion guy. I just know when I like something and when I don't. Everything he puts out, I'm like, I really like this. So he's good at what he does. Secondly, what you said about you not necessarily being at least at this point, not necessarily having the one or two designers like you look to for inspiration. That reminds me of how certain comedians, Andrew Schultz is my favorite comedian. He always says this. He really doesn't even listen to comedy because he just wants to not have his own work. Not that he doesn't want it to be influenced, but he just wants his own to be so pure and so much of who he is and his own thoughts rather than the subconscious way in which someone else's work will influence you. So that kind of reminds that I think is a similarity that I think between the fashion and comedy that you could easily pull.
Yeah.
And then to kind of circle back to one of the things we were talking about a little bit earlier, one, when it comes to, I guess, price points of luxury brands, but then also just the conversation about how people decide what they do wear. Because that is something that I think about all the time. I'm like, why am I wearing everything that I'm wearing right now? Like this Daily Paper shirt, it's a brand where I literally discovered it because it's on the way to my barber. And I literally in Lower East Side, and I walked in the store one day and I just loved every item there. The people in there are just like quite simply, they're just like cool people. I don't even care to try to explain it in a more complex way. You walk in, there's just cool people, and it's a cool brand, and so I think about these things also. Literally, I bought this hat yesterday. This brand, I think it's called like 24 New York. Because I was walking home from work, I looked in the store and I was like, everything in here kind of looks cool. And so when you go about trying to put something out there that people will gravitate to, how do you try to make your own brand stand out to the point where it will become a part of people's like daily lives, to the point where, okay, I want to wear this on my chest or rep this on the day-to-day? Convoluted question, but basically how do you make your own brand stand out to the part where it's just part of what people want to represent? Because in a way you are representing the things that you're wearing.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it goes back to storytelling, right? And why that's such an important part of the creative process for me, right? Because the story plays an important role, and that's what people kind of gravitate to, right? Like people, there's a lot of people who love these kind of, fashion houses. It's because there's like 100+ years of history, with them, and some, decades, right? And they have these kind of interesting story arcs, right? And so for me, I think people, Daily Paper, by the way, they I know of the guys who created it. They're from the Netherlands, and they're really great guys as well. I think it's just a storytelling aspect, right? I think people see that and go, okay, this resonates with me, or I like what you're trying to, the story in which I'm using the word story too much. I like what you're trying to tell. And I want to embody that, and I want to share that with the world. And so that's really what it comes to.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of it really does come down to marketing.
Yeah.
And just, I think a lot of the brands that I like also, it'll be, and I'm not someone who's like so influenced by celebrity, blah, 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 but sometimes even if it's like a basic one, but like, oh, LeBron's wearing, not that I'm affording or wear the type of stuff LeBron's wearing, but I would say like there's a certain type of person that I look to where I'm like, quite simply, I think that's a cool person with good style. These are the brands they're wearing. I will try to emulate that type of thing.
Yeah, I have a funny story.
Let's hear it.
and this is like one of the, I would never look to LeBron. So like for like style tips, or his fashion sense.
You said you never would?
No. Because there was one time, my mom had took me shopping when I was in like, I think this was like 9th grade, right? And I really liked the back of the sneaker. It was like the LeBron Lifestyles.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked the back of it. And now when I look at it, it's, I think if we made some tweaks, it'd really be a really cool shoe. But it was a red LeBron Lifestyle, and I wore it. And this is when people were wearing, KDs. They were wearing the other types of LeBrons, or the Kobe's, right? And these are basketball shoes, but these were like the lifestyle version. So I wore it one day on the bus, and a friend of mine, Christian, he goes, we would always crack jokes on each other. He goes, those aren't LeBron lifestyles. Those are dead styles, right? And and that's always stuck with me to today.
And so because of that,
because
you're
I felt it. I was hurt. I was like,
yeah.
because I really liked there was the back of the sneaker that I really liked. And I was like, but I was like, you know what?
That's hilarious.
I gotta step on my game.
But but I mean, you can't blame LeBron for that one though. I
can blame him. Whoever designed it, well, maybe I can't because he probably didn't even.
Yeah, I was about to say. I wonder how much say.
But it has his name on it.
Fair, and I bet these athletes do have some sort of say in the design process. But at the end of the day, there is some designer who's the one who's doing all this. But okay, to have the conversation about, I guess, just price points and luxury versus like premium brands. And I was listening to this. Have you ever? There's this great podcast. Why am I forgetting the name? That I'll send to you after. I forget the name of the podcast, but they do a deep dive into a brand of some sort. Okay. And there's a phenomenal. It's like a 3.5 hour episode on LVMH. Phenomenal episode. I think I might have listened to it twice. But there's this great part where they're trying to like break down the difference between a luxury brand and a premium brand, and how you get something to the point of luxury. And so I guess my question to you is, how do you differentiate the two? And when it comes to a luxury brand, the price points are always going to be way higher than way higher, period. How is that something that you think these brands and even your brand are able to kind of justify?
Yeah, so I can talk about it from a, I guess if we put it under the contemporary luxury, because you know, and this is just my opinion or my view.
Yeah, that's all go with the flow. It's all opinions.
No facts, right? But contemporary luxury for me is one, I look at it from a very formulaic perspective on, you know, hey, do we have decent, you know, gross margin? How's our net income, you know, from the top line, income statement, right? Like how are we doing there, right? And then I also look at it from a perspective of, you know, I'm not just, like the price point isn't just for a price point's sake. Like I'm not just going to charge $1,000 for $1,000. If I charge
sometimes it feels like it's some of these brands though. I'm like, God damn, let's just say I bought something from a luxury brand for the first time literally yesterday, because it was, I got my bonus. I was like, okay, I had the one thing I wanted to get. And then I was looking around the store. I'm like, some of these things, bro, I swear they just slapped a price tag on it. There's some people will pay, but in one day I'll get to the point where I pay that. But sometimes it feels like they just stick a price on it because people can't afford it. So that's fair.
Yeah, I mean, for Louis Vuitton, right? You got to think about like,
that was
the conglomerate of, you know, right? Louis Vuitton, Moet Hennessy, like the conglomerate, right? Bernard Arnault, right? If you think about these price points and who's setting the price and how that flows through all these different layers and their top line, their bottom line, and you think of, you know, from a shareholder perspective, they're really what their goal is and their objective as a brand, you know, that kind of plays into that. And some of that thinking goes into, you know, the formula of how we come to a price point. But I think it's also a, one, right, the story, how much is that worth? And I always think back to, it's kind of similar to music, right? And funny enough, it's a podcast I listen to, Joe Budden. Yeah, and you know, I think it was one time that he mentioned, he was like, how much is a stream worth? Like for music, like how much is one stream worth? And that is such an important question, right? Because as an artist, you have to think about it. What is the value in which of what I've created here? And that's a personal.
Yeah, but that's a whole nother conversation we could get into.
Yeah, right. And it's like, again, if you relate to that story, if it moves you, right? Because the price point is one thing, right? You can set it at $1,000, but unless the story or the reasoning behind what you've created is enough to bring people in to buy that product, it could be $1,000 and have zero sales.
Yeah, that's true.
Right?
But if you do it right, it's $1,000 and you sell out. So a lot of it comes down to the market. A lot of it comes down to marketing. Okay, I'm gonna push us past the fashion comment because I was like, how long have we gone for? 56? Sheesh. Okay. Okay. Because one of the other things that I want to talk about is, where was I? Where was I? Oh, okay. So you said you didn't even see this tweet,
Mm.
but the Elmo account out of the other day tweeted general question, Elmo just checking in on how people are doing. And it was the most like innocent tweet, but then all the responses were basically so dark and gloomy that they tweeted out like mental health resources.
Yeah.
Because people were just being like, I mean, rent is going up, I just lost my job, blah, 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 blah. Just all these different things that are going on in everyday lives. And I think it's such a relatable topic to all of us because between all the different responsibilities that we're balancing, trying to keep up in our social, personal lives, all these different things, sometimes things do get to that stage of whether it's like overwhelming or you just brings on anxiety, this, that, or the other. I guess as someone who seems you have a lot going on, trying to juggle a lot, how are you able to find that balance for yourself? And if Elmo asked you the question, how are you doing? What would you basically, what would your response be?
If Elmo asked me how I was doing, I'd be like, Elmo, listen, man. There's a song we're saying in like Yoruba, right? It's Ayele, right? So life is tough, life is hard, and I think it's part like for me, 2023 was a really really tough year. When I look back and think about my goals, and I hit, I would say this, I hit a good decent amount, like a decent amount of my goals, and there were some in which that I went above and beyond. And maybe not above and beyond, but like it took me a different route,
Mhm.
which I classify as above and beyond, but it took me a different route than what I originally intended for that goal to be. Um, 2023 was really a year of discovery, and there was a lot of like growing pains, both personally and professionally. I know we didn't, get to talk about professionally, but you know, as someone, as we both work in like in finance, I said finance once, and someone was like, "You say finance?"
I was like, yeah, man.
I was like,
Until
yeah,
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 I
I
feel like
did.
finance is a certain like
Yeah,
that's a certain salary. Once I hit a certain salary, a certain
then you say
title,
finance.
then it's finance. As an analyst, it's finance.
Yeah, but I mean, for me, I on professional side, doing real estate equity and real estate credit investment, right? Commercial real estate. We've had a really tough year in 2023, and it's kind of hard in 2024. I know I'm taking a different way, but I promise
Hey, it's a
I'll loop it all
podcast
together.
spade. I
But
literally-
yeah, I mean, 2023 was hard industry wide, and when it comes to mental health, I think about how much of a role that plays. For me, right? I graduated college, you know, a year and a half early.
a
Um,
year and a half.
yeah, a year and a
You're
half
just a little
early.
genius or something.
Listen, man, when I was in
You
when I
didn't
was
say
in
no. He was like, yeah, I am.
when I was in high school, I would do college now, and I was obviously taking like AP classes and stuff like that, right? And then when I was in college, I literally would do like 18 plus credits each semester. Um, and then like during my penultimate semester, I did it's like a program at Columbia University. It was like a financial engineering. And that's how, I um, started my role originally at Citigroup, where I was, I was in a real estate within their iBanking group. And then, obviously now I'm at Guardian. But yeah, I mean, for me to go through that period where I graduated December of 2020, and at that time, there was no like people were laying off. It was coming out of well, we were still in COVID. I had no idea what would happen. And then to go into, you had that 2021 where there was kind of that things would things are gonna go up. And in 2022, it's like, oh, inflation, we're gonna have to start increasing rates. And that put a lot of pressure. And as an 23-year-old kind of in a moment of discovery and trying to adjust. So Elmo, the past couple of 3 years or 4 years have been tough, bro. We came through a pandemic. we have to deal with, all of this stuff. And I'm 20, I'm going to be 24 in 2 months. But like, yeah, man, it's been a tough. But the silver lining is, I think 10 years from now,
Oh
we're
no,
all.
okay. Don't answer the other question yet. But okay, whatever you're about to say, don't answer the question we're gonna end with.
All right, go ahead.
I was like, hey, don't do that. You're too good at this. Yeah, he's trying to. I was about half my questions I didn't even need to ask because you just segue right into them. This one I'm gonna cut you short.
All right.
But I mean, everything you said, very, very relatable. I am someone who, honestly, quite simply, just the last 3-ish years since the pandemic, I think we were able to come out in such a strong way. But every time you go back and think about it, where obviously the pandemic affected everyone, but as the young people, where we were in college, we were supposed to be in this point of our life where it's going to be exploratory, there's going to be so much growth, and then you're sitting at home doing Zoom school, and then you have to come out of it. Some people are impacted socially and in so many other ways. Because we came out so strong, we never actually, some people might reflect about how just challenging of a period that was. And so it is cool to see that, again, things are back to pre-pandemic ways. People are thriving again. But I would agree with you. And there was a very challenged period of time where if you were not taking care of yourself in certain ways, it would have been very easy to be defeated by all the things that were and are still going on in the world.
Yeah.
So.
And I think to actually answer your question, for me, where I found a lot of, solace and help was for me really committing to therapy. So personally, I was diagnosed with an anxiety disorder. And so working through that as well, and dealing with, having to utilize both therapists, psychiatrists, some sort of medication, and working through that process has been really challenging. I mean, especially coming from a Nigerian background, because we know, like, our parents
stigmatized,
yeah, mental health is really something that's like looked down upon, and they view it as you can just push through. But yeah, I've had to like come to terms with that and really embrace it and say, hey, this is a challenge in which I deal with, and this is something that I can utilize, with all the resources out there, and find it, and especially as a Black man, right? It's
talk about
and men, and I think men in general, right? Where it's winter, it's tough. People go through seasonal depression.
Depression's very real. Yeah.
Suicide rates. Within the past 2 weeks, I've actually lost someone. So it's been tough. It's tough to deal with. But I think it's something that if we can have a little bit more compassion for ourselves, and really think like, we've gone through a lot, and we just got to keep pushing. Sometimes I'm like, why do we have to keep pushing? Why? But I think, it's important that we do. And this goes back to, in my mind, I think evolutionary.
Mm-hmm.
The goal is to continue to push and strive.
Hey, as simple as it is, like Dory or Nemo said, just keep swimming. That's all you can do. All you can do is keep pushing. One of my favorite sayings: if you're going through hell, just keep going. Right. That's it. At the end of the day, you just have to keep going. And I think it's beautiful that, one, even just acknowledging that you are facing something head on is always so much better than trying to ignore it, because that's how you actually get the help that you need. Whether it doesn't even matter, it doesn't have to be mental health related, whatever aspect it is. What do they say? The first step to recovery is like admission. I don't know, some shit like that. Yeah. As long as you're able to, again, realize that there is something you're trying to work towards and work through, that will be how you are able to better yourself. Yeah. For me, it's simple. This year I've been journaling. Very helpful. Oh, wow. Okay. I've been meditating, also very helpful. And I think for me, that's what I need right now. Maybe it evolves into something else, but I know that just doing those two things kind of helps me get through my days a little better.
Yeah, I found so there's something called the Tao Te Ching. It's kind of it's by Lao Tzu. It's like a Chinese philosopher. It's like a book. I read it every day. And it's something that's really brought a lot of, because it talks about like simplicity. It talks about, it's similar to philosophy of being like water. And that's really helped me a lot as well. So if anyone...
Check it out. Wait, how do you spell it? How do you spell that?
So I know there's different spellings, but some with a D, some with a T, but it's DAO. And then I think it's DEDING by Lao Tzu. So LAO. And then I don't remember how you spell his last name, but I'm sure people can find it out
they
there.
can find it.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we get to our two segments, very quickly, we'll do it 1 minute on sports. One, AFCON predictions, two Super Bowl predictions. Let's hear them both in under a minute.
So AFCON, I'm just gonna say it now. If Nigeria wins, Ghanaians, whatever.
Well, you guys are finished.
You guys are finished, right? And no one will hear the end of it from me. I will go on a week-long.
Only a week?
Maybe year-long, actually. I might do that. But yeah, I mean, I was so worried of our team because obviously we have all this like power up top, right? You've got Osimhen, you've got a
lot of power.
Ademola Lookman, right? But then the midfield, there was something I was worried about. Super Bowl. Listen, Kansas. I think what's the name of the quarterback?
Patrick Mahomes.
Whatever he's doing, keep doing it. If you guys win, I salute. He's I don't know how many he would have won this time. It's number 3 or
this
4.
would be his third. Yeah.
Third, right?
Yeah.
So. I mean,
for me, AFCON, obviously, Nigeria soccer has been so disappointing the last few years.
Right.
Didn't even make the last World Cup. I think we need this for morale for a lot of different reasons. So hopefully we can see through. The final would be next Sunday, same day as the Super Bowl. If we make it, it's not Super Bowl Sunday, it's AFCON Sunday. So hopefully we're playing for the finals. And then Super Bowl, these are literally my two least favorites. So I'm a big Eagles fan, big football fan. These are my two least favorite teams outside the NFC, which is the conference the Eagles play in. Mm-hmm. So this was worst case scenario for me. I'm literally like, I want the game to be canceled. Doesn't look like it will be. So I want the Chiefs to win.
Okay.
Just because Patrick Mahomes, he's going to be, when it's all said and done, he's going to be one of the greatest. He's going to get a lot more. I would rather he get one more than those 49ers get even one. I'm that much of a hater. I don't want Brock Purdy getting one. I don't want Deebo Samuels getting one. Don't want Christian McCaffrey. I don't want any of them getting one.
Wow, that's premium hate.
When it comes to sports, I am as elite of a hater as it gets, and I'm so proud of it. So
sometimes you got to embrace it. Like I embrace it. Like, I'm a hater.
Yeah. Okay. So that's my Super Bowl prediction. I hope the Chiefs win. But okay, quickly, our last two segments. First one, the song segment. So I told my guests, come with 5 songs to describe who they're as a person.
Yeah.
Give me the song, give me the description, and we're going to go speedy here because I think we're coming up on time.
I'm going to fire through this because I wrote them down.
Beautiful.
5 songs that kind of describe me. One, and I think it should be the name of the episode, Different Patterns by Shea Vibes. I love Fuji. And so I'm a big supporter of Shea Vibes and his music. Glow in the Dark by Skepta.
Okay.
Another Naija boy, right? And so 7 Lives by Beautiful Nubia. It's kind of a throwback. And I recommend, for people who are Yoruba or who want to learn more, because it's mostly in Yoruba, but if you guys want to listen, for sure. This is because, Queens get the money. I'll throw it out there. New York State of Mind by Nas. And then I'll say it in a Nigerian. Wata no get enemy, right? So by Fela. That's a song that I think is really, it's kind of helped me as a Black man. And obviously, we know all the great things Fela is about. I'll throw one more special
bonus.
in there. Yeah, bonus one. Can I Live by Jay-Z.
Okay.
Just grind mode.
Love it.
That's what I'm in.
Love it, love it, love it. And now to answer what you were going to answer earlier on, ending segment, I have my guests give their ideal life 10 years in the future with as much detail as possible. I love it as a way to manifest, put something out there that you're trying to achieve. It'll be great for you to look back on in 10 years and be like, what was I able to actually accomplish? Hopefully it's everything that you're about to say. So 10 years from now, what is ideally, where are you in life to the most detail possible?
I think, I like to segment my life into different ways. I think of it as like past Femi, present Femi, and future Femi.
Okay.
And I always think there's so many times where I look back and I'm like, thank you, past Femi, because you did that, And I think one of the things that 10 years from now is if I can look back and be like, I'm proud of you. Because and it goes back to showing compassion and love for yourself. I think that's something I haven't always done. So regardless of what I achieve, I mean, I could wax lyrical of all the things I want to do, whether it's, with the brand, my ventures, professionally as well, kind of where I want to be in the world of commercial real estate, and, my overall goal, which, I've got big dreams.
Hey,
and,
Dre, as you should, as do I, as you should.
and I'm gonna get them. And so,
amen.
and so, yeah, for me, but the most important part is, whatever I achieve, I want to always keep that sense that, like, I can go back and tell myself, like, I love you, man. Like, I'm proud of you. And I think that's something that little Femi, as a kid, would have wanted to hear. And that's what I'm trying to work on today. So if I can do that now and continue to do that and keep that momentum when I'm 10 years from now, I think I know I've done a great job. When we also have to talk, not now, but maybe later if I come back, we got to talk about the trend of Nigerian men and how we're so trendy now, and all the women love us. And
I mean, I feel like we've been trendy. I feel like, hey, maybe this is just me being like, okay, let me stop. Yes,
we've been trendy, but now it's become like, I'm seeing it everywhere. TikTok, Instagram, everyone's trying our food, and I love it. It feels good. And just know, when you want, especially if you're like, I don't know about the Igbos and the Hausa, but if you're dealing with a Yoruba Nigerian man, you're going to become Yoruba.
Yeah.
And you have to speak the language. You got to learn, and yeah, we're lit.
There you go. And we'll keep that for the next time you're on.
One.
Yeah, yes, you're definitely welcome back on the show. This was a great episode. I think, one, amazing how this came about just through social media. This is literally the first time we've met in person and had this great, phenomenal conversation. This is honestly the beauty and the essence of the show, is just getting people on who are doing all these different things and just talking through people's passions and the things that make them tick. And so, yeah, this has been a great episode. Thank you for coming on. Do you have any final words for the people?
No, thank you for having me. And to everyone, just for everyone out there, it's like, I don't know how this will come off, but it's a tough time. But just know, I love you. Even if you don't love yourself, if no one loves you, I love you. And let's keep pushing. It's tough, but we'll get through it.
Yeah, love yourself. Have some compassion for yourself.
Yeah.
This has been another episode of Go With The Flow. Thank you for listening.